Yo, what is up folks, MTG here, and today we'll be breaking down the most exciting and potentially broken cards from Outlaws of Thunder Junction for the older MTG Arena formats like Timeless and Historic. I personally play a bunch of Timeless, less Historic, and taking a look at what we've got. We've got the actual core set, OTJ, we've got Breaking News, and we've got the special guest list as well. So let's get into it with blue, starting with Archive Trap. 3 blue, opponent mills 13 cards, but if they search the library this turn, like we've got all these fetch lands in the Timeless format, you can pay 0 instead, and all of a sudden you can mill a bunch very quickly. This is like maybe the last thing mill needed to be able to like a real legitimate contender in the format. Could be really interesting. There's a bunch of great blue support cards as well. You've got your brainstorms and counter spells as well as your own fetches to go with things like Ring Crab. Pretty exciting. And so mill back on the menu. After that, staying in blue, and I'll go through this kind of color by color. Note there aren't any white cards. Sorry. But Archmage's Charm, blue, and then choose one of 3, either counter target spell, hey, a bit expensive, target player draw 2 cards, the 3 mana also fairly expensive, or gain control of target non-land permanent mana value 1 or less, say like a Ragavan. Really good, but like a little overcosted maybe? We'll see how good it ends up being in, like Timeless is a really weird mix where it's like a little bit of things with Vintage, a little bit of things with Legacy, a little bit of things with Modern. Obviously, this card's seen a bunch of play in Modern. We'll see how it compares. There's definitely a bunch of things it can do in the format. And so, yeah, still pretty exciting. Next up, we have Commandeer. 3 spells, really good. And we do still have Up the Beanstalk in these formats. 5 blue, gain control of target non-creature spell. You may choose new targets for it, but you can exile 2 blue cards from your hand instead of paying its mana cost. Really powerful free spell. Again, triggers Up the Beanstalk, there's a bunch of stuff. Steal your opponent's planeswalkers, steal their removal spells, all kinds of nonsense. Commander really solid. Obviously, it's been a staple in Modern, particularly with the rise of Rhinos up until the banning of Violent Outburst and some of the other kind of like 4-color decks in the format. Just such a good card. Next up, we've got Nastory's Invitational card. I left Duelist on the Mind on here. 1 blue, X3, power equals the number of cards you've drawn this turn, flying and vigilant, but whenever you commit a crime you can draw a card, and if you do, you discard. Once per turn, obviously you can trigger it on both players' turns. The most powerful thing here, one of the reasons I've kind of like included this, is that we have Brainstorm in the Timeless format. Like you draw a bunch of cards very quickly, and so you can do real damage with this in combination with things like Ragavan, Delver, Dragon's Rage Channeler, Ledger Shredder, that kind of thing. It's an interesting one. It's another tool in that kind of toolbox. Next up, we have Mana Drain. This card is you're currently allowed to play, or will be allowed to play, 4 copies of Mana Drain in your deck. Controversial, because hey, you've got Counterspell, and that's like pretty good already. Blue, counter target spell, beginning of your next main phase, add an amount of colorless equals that spell's mana value. Is Counterspell on steroids, and could enable some really broken stuff. Wizards have decided to put this into the format not restricted. It might be they're restricted later, it might be, hey, you don't need it. At the moment, Counterspell's in an interesting space already. A lot of the best things to do in the format are like 1 mana. But obviously versus decks like Titan, there's a few other decks around where this would be really solid. And out of the control decks, it lets you kind of ramp into like Planeswalkers, see like Minsc and Boo, Teferi 5, or a few other things. We'll see what this does, how much impacts it, whether we actually stays at 4, but it's a super powerful card and it's going to be super fun to play with. And also, like, hey, if it gets restricted, you maybe get your wildcards back. Who knows. Mindbreak Trap. This is an interesting one. There are some decks like Pseudo Storm type things going on, but not tons. In Best of 3, it's a great sideboard card, but it's not the kind of card you put in your main deck. 2 blue. If an opponent has cast 3 or more spells this turn, you may pay 0 rather than pay its mana cost. Exile any number of target spells. And so when it's good, it's going to practically win you the game. Stop your opponent from killing you. When it's not so good, hey, whatever. But hey. Next up, we've got Harvester of Misery. This kind of comes along with one of the other black cards we'll get to in a minute, but 3 black for a 5/4 with Menace. Enter the battlefield, other creatures get -2/2 to end the turn, but 1 black to discard it from your hand as an activated ability to give a creature -2/2 to end the turn. Really nice removal spell, really hard to interact with a removal spell, but additionally, hey, this puts a creature into your graveyard with a nice enter the battlefield ability to kind of like clear up all the low toughness creatures, and there are some other nice black cards that we might want to use with this, like Reanimate. We have a really nice Reanimation shell in Timeless. I'm slightly less familiar with Historic, but I think there's still be some awesome, pretty, really cool cards here. Not 100% sure what's completely banned in Historic at the moment, but for Timeless, really powerful. You've got Atraxa, you've got Bristlebrand, you've got Troll Khazad-dûm. There's like a whole Reanimated deck just sat there waiting. And I was playing Solo Player quite recently in the format, and you just don't have good reanimation spells. You're using Burial Rites, which is like 4 mana. There's literally nothing cheaper than 3 mana if you want to reanimate something. And now we have the actual reanimate to use, especially with Dark Ritual. It's a bunch. The shell's really, really powerful, and there are some really nice targets with Bristlebrand and Atraxa. We'll see what we can actually do with this. Surgical Extraction, this is still more on the sideboard end, I think. You don't generally want to be playing this in your main deck. People do, and there are some decks like Mill, for example, where you want like instant speed exile effects that you can play for free to stop things like potential Eldrazi or anything else, anything that would like shuffle back into your opponent's library, or things that you just don't want them to have in the graveyard. It's also like an excellent sideboard card, like a hate card, graveyard strategies like Dredge, other things. It's just really good. Force of Vigor, 2 green, destroy up to 2 artifacts and or enchantments. If it's not your turn, you can exile a green card from your hand rather than pay its mana cost. It's an interesting one because we're getting like this green card from the cycle of forces, but none of the others. Obviously, Force of Negation, probably the most prevalent and well-known. Well, I don't know. Both Force of Negation and both Force of Vigor are really, really good. Force of Negation may be the more busted one because it's can stop, but can also enable some weird combo stuff. But Force of Vigor, a really, really awesome sideboard card and a nice boost to green decks in these old Arena Eternal formats. Abrupt Decay. Hey, this one even crosses over into Explorer, Pioneer. Well, Explorer, I guess, for Arena. Can't be counted. Destroy target non-land permanent with mana value 3 or less. Just haven't had it in the format for however long, and finally got it. Just really efficient removal spell, and can't be counted. Hard to draw with. From the big score, Pest Control. White-black, destroy all non-land permanents with mana value 1 or less, and then it's cycling. There's a bunch of things that are cheap that you want to kill against some of the decks of the format. The aggro decks go pretty in, and also the opportunity cost is really low, and it's just cycles for 2 mana at worst. But it's an excellent, excellent sideboard card, even if you don't want to play it in your main deck. Corporal Orb. Creatures as the battlefield don't cause abilities to trigger. Super powerful. Yeah. We'll be playing a lot of sideboards, I think. But again, normally not a main deck card. Every now and again there's exceptions to this rule where you have a creature with like a really big enter the battlefield downside and you get to use Torpor to negate it. So keep an eye on looking at stuff like that, like Phyrexian Dreadnought. Yeah, things we'll see. And then lastly, Dustball. Awesome card. Is like slow. It's like land destruction, but it's like very fair land destruction. 3 tap, sacrifice a land of your own to destroy target non-basic land. Doesn't hit basics. It's expensive to activate. It's just the kind of land destruction that like is quite cool to have around. And so is a nice one. Is a really interesting addition to things like Titan Field, which gives them like an extra angles to look at things from. And we'll see what it does in the formats. But yeah. These are the cards I think I'm the most excited about from the new sets for Timeless, and to a lesser extent, again, I really play a lot more Timeless, but hey, some of these into Historic as well. Let me know what you think. If you think I've missed anything, so I've like kind of like trimmed the list down a little bit, then let me know in the comments. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, please do like, subscribe, and share it around. I really appreciate it. Can't wait to get my hands on the cards on Arena and actually get to cast some of these. Super excited. Peace out.